On right now. Did everybody get that, Tim? You're muted, Tim.
We heard you, Coach. Yes.
Okay, good. You know what we're excited about today? There's been a lot of movement all across college football. You know, we've stayed with our traditional high school development profile. However, we did add a transfer from Northern Illinois. I think we addressed a great number of our needs. The class is fairly well split between offense and defense. We've got to get some more balance within our football team. You know, the commonly asked question a lot of times, did you get everybody you wanted? And the answer to that is no. And quite frankly, if we got everybody we wanted, we wouldn't have placed the bar as high as what we wanted. But coaches worked extremely hard. You know, we inserted Gordy back into that chair along with his running back duties. And I think Gordy did a masterful job. We were able to integrate a lot of guys during the course of the season with in-season visits. And then it certainly did help playing in a bowl game when guys were able to come on campus and see our guys work out. So real excited about this class. And I'm going to turn it over to Gordy. He's going to be able to run down some specifics on the guys that we can announce today. I'll circle back once Gordy's done. If you're done with questions to him, I'd be more than happy to answer any specific questions. So Gordy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Coach. Just want to say thanks for everybody tuning in. You know, we had a successful day, you know, signing our guys that we wanted and everything there. And so 13 high school guys and like Coach mentioned, 1 transfer. And so just going to talk about kind of each one of them and then open it up to questions and kind of roll from there. So, you know, the first guy, you know, alphabetical order here, Caden Anderson, you know, the quarterback from South Lake Carroll, obviously the powerhouse program that South Lake is, and kind of a quarterback factory in that aspect. We're really excited for him. You know, ended up kind of getting hurt, you know, after this year, but is going to come in and rehab with us this next semester and, you know, be able to do some things. But obviously, you know, he's a top 100 recruit out of the state of Texas and being a quarterback and our likelihood of having a big, tall guy that can grow and be strong. I think he's going to be, you know, a pretty exciting player once he gets through it and starts rolling. So we're excited about Caden. Next guy, like I said, alphabetical order, Ian Bell, a corner out of, you know, the Inland Empire out in LA. You know, went and watched him play, you know, early in the season, ended up offering him, you know, later in his middle of his senior year, but a corner that's able to have some length and being able to be really physical. I mean, that's one thing that we showed on tape, and being able to be a guy that has some ability to go tackle and then also cover and do some things. And so Ian gave us his word, and, you know, we're excited about Ian. Next guy, Bryson Brantley, receiver out of Leaf Taylor High School down in Houston, was a player that came on an official visit. You know, he was their team's most valuable player this senior year. He had 55 catches for 918 yards, 9 touchdowns, you know, a pretty explosive player that can kind of take the roof off. And that's kind of what we're looking for, a little bit size and some speed, but also, you know, the wherewithal to be able to, you know, get in the run game and then also, you know, make the big play and catch the ball. And so, you know, he's a guy that can make those 50-50 plays, and we're excited about him. Next guy is a corner, Chauncey Carter out of Garland High School, Garland, Texas, another bigger guy, 6 foot, 175 pounds. I mean, played corner. He was an first team all district. He was a punt returner. You know, all those kinds of different things. But, you know, the one thing that kind of impressed us on tape was he was a very competitive guy. I mean, regardless if it was a run or a pass, you can tell that this guy plays with speed and he's going to go get it. And so we're excited about Chauncey and his family that came on a visit, and he's going to be a guy. Next guy moving to the O-line, Jake Davies, is a big dude. Kind of our prototypical Coach Bull and I's kind of thought process on offensive linemen that sometimes they don't play O-line. They're bigger tight end guys. And so Jake Davies is a 6'7", 250-pound guy. He was a guy that we slotted and saw at Wisconsin's camp and then came out, on a visit and camped with us. And so he was a big guy. He's put on, basically 35 pounds since his junior year, and he's going to continue to do that. I mean, he's 250 right now. He played tight end, played a little bit of tackle this year, but he's got what we like to say, he's got those big joints that he's going to be able to put on the weight and be an athletic tackle for us out of Yorkville High School in Illinois. And so that's Jake Davies. Next guy, Dante Drake, a defensive tackle out of Robinson High School in Robinson, Texas. Big 6'3", 267-pound guy. A 3-star recruit. Nowadays it's 24/7 Rivals, but the new thing is On3 is kind of the new recruiting database, all those kinds of different things. But he was a guy that committed to us pretty early, and kind of held on because we felt like he was extremely explosive. He's got the size that we want. We saw him at camp, and is a guy that's been, pretty highly recruited, and we're lucky to sign him, but he's going to make a difference in the trenches, and that's a big one. Staying in the trenches, going another offensive tackle, Quinn Grovestein Matchey out of Evansville High School in Wisconsin. Another guy that came to camp, a 6'6", 240-pound guy who is going to be a monster. I mean, very similar to, when we signed Frank Crum, kind of in that same mold, 240-pound guy that ended up putting on weight quick. He's already in the weight room. He's put on 15 pounds since the last time we saw him. And he just continues to get big and strong. I mean, he's a hell of a football player. And we're excited about him. And then obviously moving on, the last guy that you guys saw on our social media was Nas Hill. I know, that was kind of the last one. We knew he was coming, all that stuff. He wanted to do his whole signing day deal. And, he's a very explosive player. I mean, he is dynamic. He's 6'3", 180 pounds, is a basketball player, unbelievable basketball player. But we're really excited about him. I mean, his length and athleticism and playmaking ability is off the chain. And he's from Kankakee, Illinois. He came out with his dad and coach, and, it was a kind of a match, felt like this guy could fit here and be a player for us. And so Nas, we're really excited about him. And then staying kind of in the Midwest, we got Keone Parks, running back out of Bradford, another guy that came to camp this summer. Great parents, great, with his mom at home, little brother, great coaches, support system at the school. He is another 3-star recruit, who's actually the number 2 recruit in the state of Wisconsin. And, he's really an explosive athlete, a 24-foot long jumper as a junior, scored 18 the other night, had 18 boards. I mean, he's just a ball player. And that's the one thing you'll notice about him watching his tape is, he plays both ways, offense and defense. And that's kind of what we like in our running backs. And he's going to be an unbelievable addition to, our football team and the running back crew. Moving on, Lucas Samsula out of Plano West High School, Texas. Big dude, 6'4", 255 pounds, strong. Coach Bull kind of always has a little sayings, and he says strong as mustard gas, and that's the way he plays. Is a two-way player, tight end, defensive tackle, all those kinds of different things. This was his actually first year playing D-line. He was a tight end, throughout most of his high school, but came to camp and was a really good football player. I mean, he loves the state of Wyoming. He fits. He's ready to wear the brown and gold. And then another late kind of addition that we've been recruiting for a long time is Justin Stevenson, and we're really excited about him. I think he's got great speed. He's out of Katy, Texas. But he is a 6'1", 175-pound freshman receiver. Quarterback situation, targets, all those things, wasn't a lot of it. And that's kind of what that took us a while to offer him and continue to roll. He had 37 catches for 552 yards and 5 touchdowns. But the one thing you see him is he plays the game really fast. And that's exactly what we're looking for in receivers. And he's going to be an early enrollee. He's graduating high school, kind of as we speak, and then he's going to be here next semester. And so we're excited to get to work with him and see him in spring. Okay, moving forward, we got Tell Wade from Ray, Colorado, defensive end, 6'3", 250-pound guy who plays with his hair on fire. I mean, he plays extremely hard. His dad played at Nebraska. He is a 3-star, recruit. All that being said, he's an all Colorado team. Offensive lineman, he's going to play D-line. He played all over the place, at Ray, Colorado, but he's going to be a dynamic player for us on the edge and do some good things. I mean, he's 6'3", 250 right now. And, he's kind of where we kind of want him. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and do some special things. And then the last high school kid, before we talk about Harrison, we got Jaden Williams out of Rudder High School in Bryan, Texas. And this was one that we found, early senior year. He was a pretty special kid. Junior tape, he, didn't play as much defensive tackle. He was kind of playing linebacker and different positions and kind of grew into this defensive tackle position. But when you see him, I mean, 6'3", 270 pounds, and he's running around and has the twitch and athleticism that we look for to be able to go there. And so, we're really excited about him and the other 2 D tackles that we signed because we got some size, we got some, nastiness, and we got some athleticism. And then lastly, Harrison Whaley, the running back from Northern Illinois. We had an opportunity, this whole new wave of recruiting and transfer portal and things like that. I was able actually to go visit him at Northern Illinois at a nice little restaurant. And, we went and met with him, got him on campus. Coach Bowl got to get in the house. He's originally from Johnston, Iowa, which is in Des Moines. He played at Urbandale High School in Iowa, which is a very good football program right there. And, we're really excited about Harrison. I think he fits, what we look for in the running back room with the dynamic explosiveness and him being ready to roll. I mean, that's the one thing that, really excited about. So that is, the 14 guys that we have signed. And I guess, it's open to questions.
Ryan?
Gordy, I'm just curious, when you saw Harrison's name in the portal, did it immediately jump out because you had faced him, and did that stick in your memory of that game?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Whenever a back goes off, for over 100 yards against our defense, which, our defense is always stout against the run, you kind of take notice. And so, we were really excited about him and getting to know, a little bit more about him, because that's the one thing that, we do a great job of here is getting to know the person. And, that's one thing that outside of his tape and being really athletic and fast and can make yards and touchdowns and everything about it, he's a really good person, and that's what I'm really excited to be able to coach and bring in this spring.
Cody?
Gordy, you talked about it a little bit, but can you talk a little more about how you found Naz Hill? And he had some pretty big offers. How'd you sway him to Laramie?
Yeah, it's offers nowadays, you don't know if they're real or not. Those are kind of the biggest things, where in the Midwest, recruiting kind of moves a little bit faster than everywhere else. And so these offers kind of come and they go. But the one thing that, we were able to do is just stay on them, and that's the biggest part, and be able to get in, a great relationship with his parents, mentioning his dad and the coaches and everything there. I mean, Coach Benny Boyd did a great job of staying in touch and recruiting him and understanding that, hey, you got a big time opportunity here with his length and athleticism. That was a good one. That was a really good one to get.
Ryan?
With Ian McGrew leaving, just a couple weeks out, did that put even more on your plate? And when you fill that position, has that position kind of changed with the changing landscape, or what are you looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, this Coach Bolt brought me here from North Dakota State to, be in charge of recruiting. And so it's always kind of been, what I've always kind of done, so with that being done, it's next man up mentality and be able to get it done and continue to roll. So, I was excited to be able to kind of overtake, the process of recruiting as, finding these guys and developing relationships with these players is a thing that coach probably thinks that I'm pretty good at. And so, I'm excited to continue to do that and help the Cowboys however I need to.
Cody?
Gordy, of all the great things on signing day and all these great players you guys brought in, the one thing people are noticing, of course, is no Wyoming natives on this list. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about the Wyoming high school football landscape this season. Yeah,
I mean, we're always going to take, a hard look, at Wyoming. There's probably, since coach has been here, I don't know if a Wyoming staff has been in as many high schools and have talked to and developed as many relationships with high school coaches as we have, And so, with this just being the first signing day, we'll go back to the drawing board and continue to recruit this state extremely hard.
Anything else for Gordy, guys? Well, Coach, we'll open it up to questions for you.
You bet. Any questions you guys have of me? Yeah, Cody?
Coach, are 7 guys from the Lone Star State. Are we seeing the Oscar Giles effect?
Well, I think, Oscar certainly enjoys a great reputation throughout the state of Texas. But we began to kind of, I don't know, I coin a phrase every once in a while, re-engineer, redefine some of our recruiting footprint. And Gordy had a big impact. He felt like Texas was an emerging area for us. Obviously, the state of Texas has always enjoyed really good high school football. I had some concerns about recruiting it initially, but along with, the past history, just the influx of population and talent, some of those guys that were from the central part of Texas really, Gordy mentioned a couple of the players, a couple of defensive linemen. Basically, they're either from Waco or College Station, Bryan, and that whole area has emerged. But canvassing Dallas, Fort Worth, Central Texas, and Houston, we picked a guy up from the Golden Triangle last year. It's been a really good area for us. We have seen some kind of special connection to guys that play in Texas are used to pickups and cowboy boots and things of that nature. So the transition's a little bit better too. And so we've got a great name, but I do not want to undersell Oscar Giles' connection too. He enjoys a great reputation. He was an excellent player at the University of Texas, and he coached at SMU, he coached at Houston, and then he had 2 terms at Texas. And so that benefited him as well. Yeah, Ryan.
Craig, with Caden Anderson, obviously it's a developmental program, a developmental position, but the fact that he's played, in the brightest of Friday Night Lights in Texas, does that give you an indication maybe he could pop earlier than later?
Well, one of the things about having him come on campus and working on his rehab here, but beyond the rehab, is just to be able to be in the meeting rooms and things like that. His system that he ran in high school is very similar with what we do here. Obviously, as you guys know, if you follow the state of Texas, that's a premier program. And so when we zeroed in on him, Coach Polasek was in the high school during the spring. Oscar knew a lot about him. We vetted him at one of the satellite camps, and just his wherewithal and his understanding. The other thing that did help, he's got grandparents that they live in Boise, and their family spends a great deal of time in Steamboat. And so he had a real appreciation for the spirit of the West. And so it was a natural fit. Physically he's what you're looking for, but then also just his football IQ is really good. And so we're excited about him. Yes, Cody.
Craig, kind of the same question Ryan asked Gordy. Do you recall watching Harrison Whaley on film before you guys took on the Huskies last year? And then obviously what he did against you guys was pretty impressive.
I didn't need to watch him on film. It's embedded in my brain. I mean, it was, I thought the game was all of a sudden done. And then the next thing you know, we can't tackle this guy. But I also saw the week before, he played really well against Georgia Tech. And so, we knew when Gordy mentioned that, I was like, yeah. And then what we were able to do too, and Gordon also mentioned, we vetted his character extensively. And so kudos to Gordy because he jumped on that and was very aggressive. And then we were able to get in, and Gordy said too, we were able to get him on campus and things like that. And so appreciate it. One of the things that was, it taxed Gordy because beyond coaching running backs, he was spearheading recruiting. But one of the advantages of having a guy that's spearheading recruiting is he's not an on-campus guy. He was able to get out and visit with high school coaches. And, many times he would be out, on an open week on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so he covered a lot of land. And Gordy and I have worked together many years now. And so he did a super job with Harrison. I'm rambling here a little bit, but we're excited about having him. But he left an indelible impression on me when he raced down the far sideline, and we couldn't catch him.
Greg, I think this is 2 classes in a row where you've signed Jaden Williams at defensive tackle. Do they need nicknames? And can you just speak to the emphasis on D tackle in this class?
Yeah, Gordy will tell you around here, if there's a defensive tackle, we take them if they're good, because you can't ever have enough. And he steered this whole recruiting process. But you're right, we get a lot of Jaden and Cadence anymore. That must be the name. So we're going to have a couple nicknames, and maybe seniority is going to take preference, but we're certainly glad to have him. Cody.
Craig, I think last year, I can't remember if it was the traditional signing day or early, but you had a few surprises at the end that you guys were really excited about. Were there any surprises today at all, good or bad?
Well, as I said earlier, you don't get everybody that you want. I think you referenced the state of Wyoming. I can tell you, Gordy's right. We're going to continue to cull through. Typically, I think we've done a really good job identifying Wyoming players, and we were disappointed we weren't able to sign a guy out of this early class. Doesn't mean we won't sign another one in the second signing, but we've got a pretty good pulse on the state. And so while some people may look and say, well, they're not signing any Wyoming guys, I think if you look at the past history over the 9 years, I cannot recall a time when there's been a player in the state that we passed on that turned out to be a solid player. And so we're comfortable with where we're at, but we're going to continue to cull through it. But yeah, that would be a disappointment, but I'm not even going to acknowledge who that is. There was some dogfights that we had that if it would have been the old days when I first started recruiting, we'd be sleeping out in the car the night before, knocking on doors, collecting those letter of intents today. Yes, Ryan.
Craig, how much different does this portal cycle feel than last year? Just being used to it and just, I guess, obviously you didn't have very many this year compared to last year.
Well, I can tell you every year is unique. The NCAA has allowed some windows for portal recruiting that were not there last year. The lay of the land is changing extensively. We've been actively vetting and watching players. And I can tell you what, they come in and some of them are out pretty fast. We'll continue to access that. There's I think 4 days during the early part of January that I'm sure we're going to have some guys on campus. And so, it's just, you got to be nimble and evolve, which I think we've done. Some of the guys that we were able to add to our football team last year really were not added until after the first of the year. And so we're going to actively seek that. Like you said, we've got one right now. We may end up just with one, but I would be surprised if it is just one. I think you're going to find that we'll try to access a couple more guys in the portal. Yeah, Cody.
Greg, I know you said it's a moving target, but after the bowl game, what does the process look like for you coaches? Do you call people in, like you talk about guys are graduated and want to move on? Is that when you start having those conversations? And then do you expect to sign any more people on the traditional day?
We have some conversations right now with some of our players who, after the last week or so have come into my office and, coach, I think I need to move on with my career in life. And, and so we're going to be able to release those. I would do it now, but I had some really meaningful conversations with some great young men who are playing in this game. That's going to be their last game that didn't identify that at the end of the year because they're sorting some things out. We're in hopes that we don't have a significant amount of exodus after this game, but that may happen. I think you're just finding everywhere across the country, the lay of the land has changed. I would be surprised if we have that number maybe that we did last year, but I thought our staff addressed it, and I think we're a better football team this year than we were last year. And so we'll continue to cull through. There's all kinds of software that we have access to watch tape, and then we've got a lot of connections. So we're going to stay on top of it after the bowl game. And this is a concern that we have with our AFCA Board of Trustees, that the quality of life for an assistant coach is beginning to really be lessened, and we're all concerned about that because typically after a bowl game you decompress and you're able to spend some time with family members that are extended family members around the country. We're all going to be back in the office because there's 4 days that we're probably going to need to have recruits in, and so we're riding for the brand. It's another window to access talent. And we're certainly going to be here. So that's going to be some of our on our ledger as soon as we're done. Yeah, Ryan.
Speaking of quality of life, I mean, the NFL, they spread out free agency, the draft, playoffs. You guys have it all in December. Would you rather just go back to the February signing day, or do you like getting it done early like this, even though it's chaos?
Yeah, because you're doing a lot of things, and typically college coaches are not great multitaskers. I can tell you what's really good about the early signing date is I think it lessens some of the pressure on a high school player, simply because many times they want to be thoughtful, and even though they're committed, they'll take a call, and college coaches can be pretty persuasive. And then you have the guys that they say they're committed. Are they really committed? Well, hey, here's the letter. If you're committed, then sign. And so we had a couple that went sideways. They said they're here, and then all of a sudden, well, I don't know. And so our staff is in favor of the early signing date. It does tax us, but I just think there's real benefit for the players and for the coaches, and it's given us a great early start. Cody.
Greg, you've mentioned the word evolving a lot, and that's what this is, right? With all the portal and all that. I'm curious how you personally evolved when you saw, 15 players leave last year. What did you learn from that? And then how did you handle it this year, maybe differently than last year?
Yeah, and Gordy and I have talked about this as well many times. When you invest so much in these players, and then all of a sudden they exit, and it's in pretty short notice, there's a real sense of disappointment because you feel like you failed somehow to meet all their needs, and what these guys' needs are and what their desires are and what reality is sometimes two different places. What Gordy and I've kind of come to is that, if you have a guy leaving, there's going to be another guy coming. And it's as far as sometimes removing yourself from taking things personally and wishing the best for these guys that are going someplace else for some other experience. So you kind of, you take your feelings off your shirt sleeve a little bit and you just move forward. And like we said, there's a guy leaving, there's going to be another guy coming. I do think in college football, we have got to get our arms wrapped around, the integration of NIL, one-time transfer, which is basically, you hear one-time transfer. I don't believe that's the case here. There are multiple transfers, but that cocktail of NIL transfer, all of my colleagues, ton of my colleagues are jumping up and down saying there's tampering going on, and I'm sure we've had it here too. In the NFL, at least you have some semblance of more regulation is probably a term that no one likes to hear, but we've got to get some guardrails even more so to have some semblance, not so much to handcuff the players that want an opportunity, but to protect a program for the players that are on the team. And this is where
Coach, I think we lost you here.
I'll run down real quick.
Okay, all right, Gordy. We don't want the power to go out tonight and tomorrow, that's for sure. Everybody's going to need as much power as they can get. See if Gordy can get him rebooted here.
Man, it's turned into a flat blizzard here in Cheyenne. Is it over there too?
It's blowing hard here, yeah.
Oh, it's
it
snowing
is.
like crazy here.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be high of -3 tomorrow, a low of -20, and wind chills -50. That's a little too cold for my taste. Gordy may be walking him down to his office. Looks like Gordy's is still working. Hey, Coach. Okay. I see Gordy's computer is still up. Maybe it's just easier to go down to his. I'll ask him. Yeah, just a second. Guys, do you have any other questions?
I think I'd be fine.
I'm
Yeah, I'm
good.
all right.
You guys good?
I think so.
They say they're good, Coach.
Tell them thank you.
You bet. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Have a good Christmas.
Gordy, you too. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.